This guy flew in from California to drive his company truck over here. His company's based out of Texas. They do some oil field work. They got this 9612 valve, and they had some front end concerns. They had no idea it was this bad, though. See, that entire coil bucket's ripped off the chassis, and that shock's leaned back like it is. We're going to have to fix that. It's honestly a really clean truck on the inside. It's only got 209,000 on it. It's a 12 valve truck. Opening up the hood, looks like a nice stock 12 valve. But it's got a little something extra. Thanks to it being a California emissions truck, this thing came factory equipped with an EGR. Ew! It also has the Banks twin ram intake on this completely stock truck to give her no extra horsepower, but it looks cool. Michael did us a solid and got the fender pulled off and all the wire and harness temporarily zip tied up out of the way so that we can better assess the damage to the frame here. This is what the coil bucket is supposed to look like. Now we can see the full extent of the damage to this coil bucket. It tore the weld from here all the way to here, started cracking the bracket across. The only thing holding this coil spring in was the metal from here to this side here. There's actually a recall for this problem. It's called Dodge Recall 835, and it talks about in 95 there was certain four-wheel drive pickup chassis, depending on the date it was manufactured, where the coil bucket could actually rip off the frame and cause brake loss. So I heated up the coil bucket and I welded this piece of tubing on here so that we can put this really long snap-on pry bar, and then my counterweight Michael pulled down on it really hard. And now our coil bucket is nice and flat again. It's where it's supposed to be, where that weld ripped off the chassis. So we've got this crack to deal with here. And then we also have the torn frame up here to deal with. We'll close this gap up here where my finger's at by just pushing the coil bucket closer to the frame. Pull down, Michael. Oh, heck, I forgot to turn on the welder. Oh, hey, baby. What you doing later on tonight? Oh, yeah, she likes that. We've got this Spicer angle meter here, and we zeroed it on the side of the chassis. We're gonna zero it again. And then put it up here on top of the coil bucket. And we are 0.3 of a degree off 90 degrees, so good enough for a second gen as far as the squareness between the top of this and the side of the frame. We compared it to the other side, and the other side's the same way. Now the frame is laid down nice and flat like it used to be before it was cracked. We're going to drill out the end of that crack so it doesn't propagate further. This flexible MIG gun is really nice because we can bend it like this and get in here and weld, as opposed to a fixed MIG gun like this. You'd have to be all dumb looking in here. So it's a pretty cool gun. Now we gotta use this carbide bit to get in here and gouge out this crack from the hole all the way back over here. That is a job for Michael. Got our crack all ground out. Now we can weld her up. Okay, y'all can roast me, but this ain't going anywhere. I've got 3 passes here, there, and there. I welded the crap out of it in here, and then we welded the backside. That's got like 9 passes on there, getting that frame stitched back together. But we're gonna paint it up, put it back together. We're gonna throw a little weld on this side just for good measure, like it never happened. We had to pull the fuel tank out of this truck because the chassis is cracked here, and here, and here, and there. We'll look more at that in a minute. But look at all this mess under here. Like, everything around the fuel tank is wet, but the bed is wet. So I assumed that something in the bed was leaking down onto the fuel tank. I was wrong. See how the fuel sending unit retention cap is crooked? It's also not tight. So whenever this thing's full of fuel, I'm sure it's splashing out of here and, and splashing up onto the bed. So we're gonna fix this for him while we got it out. If fuel is coming out, then water and dirt and contaminants that get on top of your fuel tank are also going in the tank. So you can see There is definitely some trash in the bottom of this unit, so we're going to drain all the fuel out and get it cleaned up. Now is where we bust out Paul's highly modified fuel caddy here. It has a reversible filter, so we can filter the fuel going in the tank and then filter it going out of the tank. It's got a Milwaukee drill with a 3-to-1 gear ratio reduction box here. Paul has it set up to where you don't have to stand here and hold the trigger on the drill. You can just pull this lever and it'll keep the drill running. You can see we put 3/4 of a tank in here to get that fuel tank empty. Michael's gonna go wash that thing up, and before we put the fuel back in it, we need to go ahead and use these cam locks to turn this filter around so that we don't push that debris right back into the fuel tank. Now that we got the fuel tank out of here, you can see this crack running along the bottom. We've got another vertical crack that hasn't quite made it to the bottom. On the opposing side, we have a crack all the way to this corner. And then one last one, starting right here, it has made it to about here. So we're gonna drill the crack out, we're gonna grind the crack out, weld all that up and grind it flush, and then we're gonna plate about 3 inches on either side of every one of these cracks. All this dirt on the floor came out of the frame rails up here because I can't have dirt on the back side of this weld, and I intend on welding it on the back side too. We've got all the cracks ground out and the frame down to some nice clean material. This is the worst of them here. Went all the way through. Got us some plates drawn up, now we just gotta cut them out. This is what we're looking like after we welded all of the joints up on this thing and ground them down. This was that really big one that went all the way across. That line is not the crack, that's part of where they bent the frame from the factory, so it's just a tooling mark. They're gonna weld our plates on the bottom, we're done. I took all 4 of our plates and I just booger welded them together with my eyes closed so that we can drill 3 holes through these plates for some plug welds. I could have cut these holes on the plasma table, but sometimes plasma cut holes don't weld real great, so that's why we're gonna drill them. Voila, we got some holy plates. Got our plates all welded up, looking pretty good for mechanic welder. A little flat black Rust-Oleum. Drive her down a country road a couple of times, you'll never know that wasn't factory. Michael got the fuel tank all cleaned up. I got the fuel sending unit cap done. Sheesh, eat off of that son of a gun. Here we're gonna test the fuel level sensor on this thing. And as I increase this, the reading on the ohm meter here should go up or down very smoothly. See how we're going from 80 to 200 to 70 to 40 to 30 to 300 to open. This thing is shot. Here we've got our new fuel level sensor hooked up, and we're just going to run this thing through its range of motion. And as expected, everything looks good. And this old girl's ready to go back in her home. Looking nice. Now we just got to transfer our fuel back in the tank. Got her out, going out, so it's filtering the fuel that we're putting back in. She got some pretty good flow to her, and I can hear it now. We use this thing for gasoline and diesel. Sometimes there's contaminated fuel, but there's a clean out port on the bottom, and we filter the fuel in and out of the tank, so this thing stays really clean. Check it out, our coil spring and shock straight up and down now. We got the old girl on the alignment rack because not only did we repair the frame, we also did a track bar, a tie rod end, ball joints, and some other stuff. This is what our numbers are looking like currently, so we don't have enough caster in it. You can tell here, and then the toe is off. It don't get much better than that, old son. That's a wrap. This old girl's ready to go back to work. Oh. That's more better. That's what I put on it.